Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. We start our video with a story in which our OP took petty revenge on a rude lady for complaining about the service. The next story will be much more brutal with serious consequences. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Talking down to fellow restaurant employees? Screw you! A little background info on me. I'm currently a restaurant manager. I've served, hosted, cooked, and bartended in my past as well. I basically have been in the restaurant industry for about 15 years, give and take any time I've taken off for college, having my daughter, etc. I go to a chain coffee and bake shop place on my way to work damn near every day. On my way in, I go to this place probably 3 to 5 times a week. Waste of money, I know. But anyhow, the few employees I see there know me, and occasionally my order will get screwed up as well. Is it the end of the world? Oh God, no. I drink the Diet Coke when I ordered a regular, and I get irritated as hell when they don't cut my bagel in half, because I have to eat while I'm driving to work, and it just makes the eat and drive a lot easier if it's cut in half. However, I understand that things in a workplace, any workplace, can get chaotic and mistakes can be made. My order is correctly made on most days, and it's a great place to get a quick bite to eat. On this particular day, I went inside the store to order a large cup of coffee. As I was waiting for them to bring it to me, an older woman, age 50s maybe, came up next to me and slammed her drink down on the counter. The girl brought me my coffee, and one other young man was working behind the counter with her as the older and quite PO'd patron says, "I was supposed to get this and this in my coffee, and I don't taste it. You didn't put enough sugar in this either. It's not even sweet." Of course, the guy behind the counter grabbed the coffee, apologized, and took it to grab her a new one. As he walked away, the angry old bat rolled her eyes and looked at me, shook her head, and sighed really loud while placing her hands on her hips. I put my sugar in my coffee, stirred it, and realized that after years and years of working in food service, I was actually on the side of the counter where I can speak my mind and not lose my job. For such a long time, I dealt with so many people that have been served the wrong food, and these people deal with it one way or another. The attitude is, "Oh well, crap happens, it's no big deal," or "It's the end of my world and everyone must pay." This old bat had the latter attitude. So with great confidence and a lot of pent-up resentment towards these kinds of people, I looked at her and said, "God forbid someone make a mistake while doing their job." I grabbed my coffee and walked towards the door and saw the wide-eyed look on her face. She only remained speechless for a few seconds, and as I grabbed the door handle to exit the store, she said, "What business is it of yours?" I just opened the door and looked over at her and said, "You're a bee," and went on my merry way. Damn, it felt good. Pretty sure it became your business when she looked at you and tried to get you involved and to be on her side. And our next story. Do not mess with my family. I will destroy you. Background. I'll call myself Daisy, qualified as mechanical engineer in the mid-1980s working in textiles in a little African country. Players. Ed, the consultant with carte blanche. Ed was there to assess performance, but also to investigate why a profitable company takes a nosedive within 18 months. The villains are Bob, Mike, and Paul. Fake names. Story's long. Take a break, get yourself a coffee, tea, shake, cocktail, whatever rocks your boat. I was part of a management team on behalf of an NGO, non-government organization, company funded by the Commonwealth and IMF, International Monetary Fund, to help set up viable labor-intensive industry for this country in the mid-1990s. To start with, this was a dream job. Free luxury accommodation in a secured village that had tennis courts, swimming pool, guest lodge. My contract included free electric, water, and telephone landline. There was no broadband at that time. You used your landline to dial up. No mobiles at this time. Free private schooling for my 3 children, a monthly allowance, note, not salary, great pension, and full gold private medical insurance. The catch was that my husband was not allowed to work permanently. He could consult for companies but not be employed. This was part of legal requirement for me to get work and residential permit. I was the total breadwinner. I was respected by the management team and my employees. Because the company becomes very profitable, it needed to be sold as a going venture to investors in the country. This was part of the agreement with the CDC, Commonwealth Development Corporation, and IMF, International Monetary Fund, who up to that point were our bosses. The sale included a clause that assured the continued employment of the local employees for 18 months after the sale. The order books were full, the bank balance very healthy on the day the new owners came in. The new owners have their headquarters in Southeast Asia. New CEO Mike and CFO Paul come in. Trouble begins. Their first order of the day was to remove the majority of the previous management and bring their team in. I was told in no uncertain terms that as a female, I should be home breeding and not working. My time was up. The company starts losing money within 9 months. This new team started blaming the local employees as the reason for the losses. Head office sent over a consultant/independent observer, we'll call him Ed, to feedback proposals, solutions, and what the root cause was. Ed was empowered to act on behalf of the group CEO in Southeast Asia. This is important for later. I had to have medical leave for 8 weeks. Whilst on medical leave, the CEO makes decision to cut off free private education and no more free utilities or food allowance without adjusting my allowance, so I went from being well rewarded for the job to having to manage with a salary that was only $100 and pay for private school and all the other household costs that were previously incorporated into contract. Yes, the company can do this. Basically, a new contract was underwritten as part of the new ownership. On my return to work, I was demoted and they placed their own man to run my previous department, engineering and maintenance. I go to introduce myself to the new manager. Let's call him Bob. Bob refuses to shake hands and states that he's there to make my life hell and remove me from company. I saw red. No one threatens my family's well-being and gets away with it. This is how I ensured the whole management lost everything. Start investigation on what's going on. In the first 12 months that the new management team has taken over the company is now losing money and in serious debt. New equipment that had been installed by the NGO has to be sold to help pay salaries. The pension fund was found to be underfunded. It was let go. Management blamed the NGO for having taken money out when they sold the company. This new management team has somehow brought over extended families. Older children were all being educated in top universities, either in South Africa or even the UK, younger children in top private schools. There was also extended house staff, including drivers, all this coming out as losses in the company books. To top it up, I discovered that my new manager's university doctorate degree was fake. The management team treat the local staff as subhuman. I'd had enough of this bullcrap. Time to sort these wankers out. Stage 1. Prove current boss is not qualified in what he says he is. Talked to Ed about my suspicions. Showed him the transcript from telephone conversation with the university that he had claimed as having a PhD from. Ed then asked me for my opinion. I explained that Bob has been changing suppliers of critical components to cheaper versions, but that still cost the same on the official books. I had evidence that demonstrates that Bob was receiving a significant percentage of the difference on the side, whilst the company charged the inflated prices. Ed's investigation had confirmed what I had stated as such. Ed had organized drivers and contacts to fly to South Africa to pick up all of Bob's children from schools and universities, and for those in the UK, the university was informed no company funds would be forthcoming for the one child that was being educated. Ed proceeded to give each of Bob's family plane tickets for the following morning. Company security guards and police were sent with Bob to his bank, where funds were frozen due to fraudulent transactions. Bob accepted a plea bargain. He'll not be welcome in Africa ever, and his home country police were informed. When Bob landed in his home country, the head office had organized a police escort. Bob was unemployable and his family greatly shamed. I hope he got his just desserts. Couldn't care less. Stage 1 complete. Stage 2, the final event. Prove Mike and Paul have been defrauding the company and country. Mike and Paul were still in charge of the company, now 18 months from takeover. The stated clause that the workforce could not be touched was up. Mike and Paul called an all-site meeting. They stood up with tears running down on how NGO had lied about the company orders and profitability, how they're trying their best but the company's really struggling and people will lose their jobs. They announced a reduction of 66% of the workforce. I'd been working closely with Mike and Paul's secretary, the accountant, and the purchasing officer, so I'd been able to access the info needed. Survival kicked in. As I was part of the original management team, I had the original accounts that were audited as part of the CDC and IMF funding for the NGO. In the 18 months, I accumulated information on the losses being shown and the missing money going offshore into private accounts and not the head office accounts. You see, these two did not respect women or the locals. They assumed that what was being done would not be picked up. If they had bothered to understand who they employed in the office, they would have found that the purchase officer and the accounting supervisor were qualified accountants with close links to the government, the banks, and they were, you're right, women. I had explained to the secretary, the accountant, and purchasing officer that there would be a time when we'd need evidence to safeguard money and people's livelihood. So the files had been building from their 6-month to now a year later. I talked to Ed and give him the evidence we'd been accumulating. It was what Ed needed. Mike calls me to the office to tell me that I'm redundant with immediate effect. He also stated that for me to be able to stay in the country to sort out my family, I'd now owe the company rent that was twice my given allowance. I lost it. I literally turned around and explained that in less than 24 hours, Mike would have no future. His family would have no future. No matter where they run, they would be found. I already knew this to be true, as Ed already had the wheels in motion. This time, the group chairman walks in on my heated conversation together with the IMF representative and Paul in tow. Mike was fired on the spot, loaded onto a plane with an international warrant for fraud. The IMF pursued this fully. Mike was screwed. In this Southeast Asian country, a stain on your trustworthiness means you are untouchable. Paul didn't fare much better. He was locally arrested, denied access, fined, and the IMF did the same to him as what happened to Mike. Only difference was that Paul willingly ratted Mike for all he was worth. Great job, OP. So satisfying that the bad guys got their butts handed to them on a plate. Hope your life turned out great. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.